And many South Africans depend on public transport to commute back and forth between work and home. Modes of transport vary from civil aviation to minibus, taxis, and each of these public transport sectors has its own fair share of challenges. But then what challenges do commuters face in the various sectors of public transportation, especially since these incidents affect them the most? Well, to discuss this, we're joined in studio by Mr. Sangweni, the president of the South African Commuters organization. So thank you so much for your time this morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much. We understand that your organization held a meeting just yesterday. What were the contents of those meetings?
We're addressing the question of PRASA and also with the accident that you spoke about. But because we are not talking with the relevant people at this moment, which have been placed in, and it is disturbing and find that now the people that have been put to PRASA, they don't care about commuters. No one, official, no one, went and see to the hospital those who are injured and provide them with the assistance, loss of income. Nobody's talk about it since they've removed the CEO, Lucky Modana, which these are the things that we are still fighting about, that we want his position to be returned back to him.
When you made reference to the fact that it seems like no official cares or is concerned about the challenges of the commuters, what are some of the challenges that commuters face on a daily basis when it comes to public transportation?
You know, I would say that in this country, public transport is in a chaos. Why I say that is in a chaos? Number one, you go to the taxis. A taxi is going to drop anywhere. You're going to walk another 5 kilometers to your destination. You go to the buses. Also, they are going to do the same thing, and buses are not punctual, and especially those which are subsidized by government. Public transport in this country is only the peak hour, people who are working. If you are not at work, you does not have access to public transport. The only thing that you can treat it as a public transport, you'll go to the taxis. And for that matter, taxis are not public transport, are informal public transport, because they are not subsidized. But buses and trains are subsidized by government. But look at what is happening. With trains, yes, we know that these trains that we are using currently, they've got a technology of 1956, and the signals is the technology of 1960. And these technologies, they cannot be found anywhere in the world. But this boy, Lucky Modana, has tried his level best to recapitalize the rail system in the country. And the South African, they must thank this boy, because we are still counting, we are still talking about trains. We would have liked just Africa today if it didn't come and rescue the very same trains that are giving problems. And we are waiting for the new trains to come in November. But look what is happening.
But in the meantime, do you think, our modes of transport so far, which we have in trains, which we have in buses, and of course the informal taxi industry, are those sustainable?
Well, I will tell you, you go to the buses, they're not punctual either. The only transport that you can say informal taxis, but now that the congested traffic in our roads, they have been delayed by that. There's no dedicated lane for the taxis, only the BRT that is got a dedicated lane, which the government has put it in place in that way, but failed to do it for the taxis to take people in time to hospital, to schools, everywhere, workplace and everywhere. Then you go to the trains. The demarcation of our rail system was not made for public transport, was made for the goods, as you said. We said in 2006 transport in Soweto, which was held by the former minister, Jeff Hadebe. We said our backbone public transport should be rails, and rail must go to people where they stay. Now look at the destruction that is taking place now. Are we going to see those things happening? No, we are not going to see it.
But Mr. Sangweni, there was an imbizo in Pretoria after the incident with buses occurred with auto packs coming from Prasa and other buses and problems with routes there. And I remember during the imbizo that the Premier, Mr. Ramokgopa, as well as the Mayor, Mr. Ramokgopa, and the Premier, Mr. Makura, were engaging with people in trying to resolve the issue. But as far as your participation is concerned, representing commuters, were you a part of that gathering? Were there resolutions that you proposed in that gathering?
We were not invited in that gathering, but we stood up when there was bloodshed now. I call myself the taxi industry leaders. I put them together, I called Prasa. We then find a solution, and I request the taxi industry of Mamelodi that you must distance from violence. And we are coming with a solution. And the solution is there. But I don't think now it's going to materialize. Because what has happened, the government was very negligent, the Department of Transport. Okay? You'll understand that Autopex is an entity of the Department of Transport. The minister just instructed Prasa to provide buses there at Mamelodi, which is a thing that they did know about it long time ago. So now these buses are going to be there only for 3 months, and they have to pull out. Then who's going to come in? We are saying, let us build public transport. Let us make sure that our public transport, we bring this situation where there will be an integrated public transport feeder system that is going to run 24 hours. Unlike the thing that is happening now, you see. But are we going to achieve those things? We are not going to achieve it as long we've got this kind of people in leadership who does not think for the society, who think for themselves. You know what is happening in this question of public transport. A minister who was dedicated to address public transport in this country, it was Mr. Jeff Hadebe. After Minister Jeff Hadebe left the transport department, everything comes to tatters, fall in pieces. All these ministers that have been put in place, they're just there to get their check to go home and enjoy, that's all. They don't care. For EGL, this accident that happened on the trains, those 300 commuters who get injured.
What was your reaction to that train accident?
What is happening is a sabotage, this thing. It's a sabotage. Nothing else. You cannot tell me that how can the trains, they get behind the other one. Who's controlling it? Who's controlling it? The signal. They talk about phones also as well. They advise the driver to say, slow down, there's a train ahead of you. Where was that person?
Well, I suppose we'll also have to wait for the investigation, which is currently underway. But it also leads up to, Mr. Sangweni, some of the strikes that we see in public sector that also affect commuters. When strikes occur, how much of damage does it cause to commuters' daily activities, that is going to work, going to schools? Let
me tell you, I am saying commuters in this country are the most victim people. Nobody who shows cares now to address that. You don't have access to go to school, no public transport. You don't have public transport when you go to colleges or university. The only thing that you have to do, you have to leave your home and go and stay to the flats or townhouse, and your parents, they have to pay for you because there is no public transport available. And the people, the leadership that is here now in the sector of transport, they are not showing. They don't know nothing what to do. You want to tell me that there will be changes? If somebody is talking to me, you'll hear them talking about BRT and Reafaya.
Are those not viable at all?
Those parts. How many strikes have been happening here in Johannesburg with BRT, and how long did those strikes take place? It's the problem. It's a leadership, and committed leadership.
And just before we let you go, Mr. Sangweni, how sensitive do you think our public transport operators to commuters' needs and complaints are? When commuters complain and constantly try and bring resolutions to the table, do you think they're sensitive to those needs and complaints?
Complaints of the commuters is just like when you say to me, tell me, do you know that you are going to die tomorrow? If you tell me that do you know that I'll die tomorrow, I'll say, okay, I'll see tomorrow if I die or alive. That's the only thing I can tell you. Answer that question. Look at the leadership of our public transport in this country. Look the minister, the current minister, what she's doing. But when there is a bus accident, commuters like Patco buses in Molote and so on, you'll find her standing there. Did she come to the trains? Commuters? No. Did she comment about it? Nothing. Who has visited them to the hospitals? As I'm saying now, those commuters, they need to be helped, assisted. There is an insurance cover that is conducted by Lloyd's of London, which those commuters, they must go to PRASA and claim for their loss of income.
All right, Mr. Sangweni. Stephen Sangweni, the president of the South African Commuters Organization, thank you so much for your time this morning. I wish we had more time, of course, to delve into this conversation, but thank you.